This is a World War II interview.
By Erin Murphy and Walt Tiedeman.
Okay. Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I do.
What were your feelings?
Well, when it happened, I was a paper boy at the time. I had a Sunday paper route, had about 500 customers, so we delivered the papers by car. And while we were delivering the papers, we heard over the radio that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. And that was on a Sunday morning, I guess it was in 1941.
1941.
And I was really too young to know much about it or, care much about it. But I knew that the war was going on with Germany over there. And of course, when President Roosevelt came on the radio about 9 o'clock in the morning and announced that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor and we were now a state of war existed between the United States and Japan and the Axis, which was the Germans and the Italians.
Okay. Where were you? Did you say rotary papers?
Yeah, Delmar, New York.
Where?
Delmar, Delmar, New York.
Delmar, New York.
Yeah, that was just a little town outside of Albany, New York.
Okay. And you were delivering papers, right? What branch of the service were you in?
I started out, I enlisted when I was in college, at Michigan State College. And then when I was called into active service, then I went in the Air Force first and took basic training down at Miami Beach, Florida. And then after that, I was lucky enough to, I guess it was lucky, to get into ASTP program, the Army Specialized Training Program. That's where they sent you to college, finish your college degree. And then hopefully when you finish that, you would get an officer's commission and then go into service as an officer. But anyway, I got into the ASTP and for about 9 months. And then all this fighting came up in Europe that they hadn't anticipated. So they took us all out of ASTP and put us in the infantry. So the infantry is where I really spent most of my time.
Okay, volunteer or drafted? You were drafted, right?
No, I was volunteer, but I enlisted.
That's fine, hold on. Let me see this. I don't even know what I'm talking about. How did you feel about the draft then and then about now?
Well, I really think everybody ought to spend 2 years in the Army. It ought to be a compulsory draft for everybody before they go to college. Between high school and college would be perfect.
So you think that everybody should have to spend 2 years in the Army and then go in? Okay.
I think people would know a lot more. They'd appreciate college a lot more when they got there. They'd know what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So that's talking about now. That's how you feel. But what did you feel about then?
Well, then I thought it was everybody's duty to go in the service. One reason why I enlisted, and I felt that you owed it to your country to fight.
Okay. Where were you trained?
Trained?
Where were you trained?
Well, like I say, I trained in the Air Force at Miami Beach, Florida. And then after that, I was trained in infantry training and started in Louisiana on maneuvers. and then went to Fort Breckenridge, Kentucky, and then from there we went over to Europe.
For what? This is what he gave me.
To fight.
I don't know, he just gave me the sheet and I was like, okay.
Where'd you fight?
Well, when we went over there, we landed in England and went to Wales. And I guess about 4 months training in Wales. And then from Wales, we went by, we went by train and boat to Le Havre, France. And we landed in Le Havre. And then from Le Havre, we went by boxcar up into Belgium. And that's, when we got up in Belgium, that's when we started the fighting at the Battle of Bulge.
Did you have any interesting experiences in training? Well, what were they?
In training? Well, not really. One of the worst things when we went down to Louisiana, of course we were all college kids and didn't have much training at all. And about the second day there, they put us on a 25-mile march with full field pack and rifles.
Where was this, Pop?
This was in Louisiana.
Okay.
Well, they practically had you all ready for fighting. You
Yeah.
weren't ready.
And of course, most of this 25 miles was at night. We didn't know where we were or anything else. And I had a PFC strike because I was in the advanced ROTC, automatically guided if you're in advance. And I thought I got so tired I was going to drop out. I said, oh, I can't drop out. I don't know where I am to start with. And I might lose my PFC strike.
Just for the record, what's PFC?
Private first class.
And what's ROTC?
Reserve Army Training Corps.
Thank you.
Was it difficult to go from civilian to military life?
Well, not really. Most people, when they went in, they talked about how terrible the food is and everything, but I thought the food was great.
The opposite of everybody else thought.
And they, I thought, well, it'd just be sandwiches and stuff, but boy, they had hot meals, three meals, hot meals a day. It was great.
Did you believe in the justness of World War II?
Well, I didn't really know, but the only thing I knew was that, our officials said it was necessary, I was going to fight for it. And that's not the way it is today either.
Are you now opposed to war?
No,
No. Not at all? Just a little bit?
no.
No. Were you overseas?
Well, of course, I like it to be justified.
Yeah. Were you overseas?
Yes,
Where were you overseas?
in Europe, England, France, Belgium, Germany.
Were you in combat?
Yes,
What battle?
Battle of the Bulge.
Any interesting experiences?
Yeah, few.
Get your pen ready.
I think this one was one of them, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You want to talk about that for the tape, though, Pop?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, what had happened over there, well, to begin with, our division, 75th Division, we were the youngest division I guess there ever was. The average age of the whole division was 19 years old. And probably 50% of the division were college kids. So they were young and they were more or less intelligent. And the government had planned originally to use that division for the occupation forces. And we were, you know, the sequence of things were, their timing, you know, about they thought the war would be over by the time we were ready, and then we'd go up and we'd be the occupation army. And anyway, it didn't work out that way. So well, the Germans were pretty well beaten. They were they drove them out of France and back into Belgium and Germany. And then right before Christmas of '44, Hitler started the big offensive, and he was driving for Paris. And if he had broken through our line in Belgium, he would have taken over all of France again. And the war, he might have even won the war. You know, it was that close. So anyway, they moved us up in there faster than we're supposed to be up there. And of course, when we went up there, we didn't even have any ammunition. We had 5 loose rounds of ammunition, and our rifle didn't even have enough for a clip. We had to load them on the top. And we, in our let's see, it was a battalion, which would be 3 companies, rifle companies, were put up against 2 German Panzer divisions with all their tanks and everything. And they took each company had a bazooka, which was a kind of an anti-tank, and it was a low-grade anti-tank weapon, better than nothing. But so they took all our bazookas away and gave them to one company. This company, it's all their bazookas were supposed to go up against the Panzer division. And well, anyway, we finally stopped the Germans. But while all this was going on, then we moved up into fighting in my first experience. We're marching on this road, and it seemed like everything we did was at night. We never knew where we were. We're passing this road, and as we're coming by, they say, well, you know, there's a dead body in the road, you know, don't look. So we passed by, there's a dead German laying in the road, you know, walked by. And so we got to this place, and our captain came up to us and said, well, he said, I can't order you to do this, but he said, I'm going to take my overcoat off, so, you know, be more able to run around here. But he said, I can't order you to. He said, well, I'm taking mine off. He took his coat off. And so I'm cold-natured anyway, so I kept my coat off. And which I'm glad I did, because I was wounded and probably lay out in the snow for probably 6 or 7 hours. I would have frozen to death if I'd taken my coat. So anyway, there had been another company or platoon up ahead of us, and they'd been pinned down all night laying in the field, and they didn't dare move because they could be shot. So we came up behind them, and I thought we would build up a base of fire, and then they would get up and advance. So what's our lieutenant do? He says, come on, follow me. So we all got up and ran over all these people that couldn't move for the last 8 hours because they get shot. And there we go, running up the hill. And we were pretty well wiped out. And that's when I was wounded. And guess, like I said, we just had 5 loose rounds of ammunition. I'd fired 4 of them. Oh, and another bad thing about it, they were tracers. And every time you shot a tracer, one of the Germans would know where you were, and then they'd start shooting at you. So the worst thing in the world was to shoot a tracer.
Yeah.
But that's all we had. So, oh, and it was in the dark. You didn't know, who you're shooting at or anything. You'd see flashes from the German. When you see a flash, you fire back at the flash. So you don't know if you hit anybody or not. But we finally got close enough. We were throwing a hand grenade at these flashes, that they're shooting. We had hand grenades. and I guess he was our company runner. He usually stayed with lieutenant, but our lieutenant was the first one killed. So the officers carried a submachine gun. They called them grease guns. They're just pressed steel. They weren't as good as a machine gun, but they're an automatic weapon. And he said, "Anybody want this automatic weapon, grease gun?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll take it." I got a bullet. And so then I got real smart, I thought, well, I'll show him. So I stood up and fired it, and it jammed. And when I was bending over to try to clear it, and that's when I got hit in the head.
Why did it just go halfway and then come out of your ear? Why did it do that?
Well, the helmet deflected it. And here's a picture of the helmet. See, I was bending over, it came in here, you see where it came in, and then it just went around the inside of the line and out the side.
But it didn't go straight down.
No, it just went around. Your helmet sits up on your head a little bit, so just creased right
Yeah.
through.
Well, then what happened after you got hit?
So then I was laying there, and I was freezing it, and if you get wounded, you're supposed to take a sulfur pill, which I had in my belt. So I got out of my belt and took my sulfur pill, and of course it makes you real thirsty.
What's a sulfur pill? Just like a pain pill?
Well, it's kind of antibiotic, I guess. Well, it's just something the Army had.
You just took a pill to take away your pain, sort of?
No, not for
No?
pain, it's just for infection. So then, at that time, there was just frost on the ground, and snow didn't come till the next day. And so I was taking this frost off the leaves and licking it to get something, all my water I had in my canteen, I was frozen, couldn't drink that. So anyway, while I was laying there, I heard some people walking in the woods, and I got up on my knees and said, "Medic." Oh, another thing, I couldn't get my gloves back on. I didn't have enough strength. I guess I losing them too. I didn't know where they were. So I had some blue socks that they'd given us in England to issue extra socks, and I kept them in my gun belt. And I pulled them out and put them on my hand to keep my hand warm. And there I was, a medic.
The socks on your hands.
And so then people stopped walking. Next thing I heard was an explosion real near me. And so I figured it was somebody throwing a hand grenade at me, so it fell down. And then there was another hand grenade pretty close to me. And I just played dead, and they walked away apparently. So they didn't, probably a couple of Germans. And then after that, our forces put down an artillery barrage to try advancing again. And that time I got shrapnel in my thigh, were hit right near me, and the shrapnel hit my thigh. That was our own shrapnel.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, friendly fire. So anyway, they were successful in driving the Germans off, and then our troops came up, and next thing I knew, there was about 5 GIs dead there with rifles at me, and here I am, these blue guns. And they said, take off those blankety blank thing in your hand. They didn't know what that was. So I took those off, and I thought they were going to shoot me. But somebody came over and put my dog tag down and looked at me and said, oh, he's one of us.
Oh gosh, so lucky.
And the reason they're so worried about, they didn't know whether, it was an American or a German, because the Germans had been captured a bunch of GIs and they'd taken their uniforms, and they were infiltrating the American forces dressed up as Americans, and they were really doing a lot of damage. So that after they got fooled a couple times, they weren't going to get fooled again. So anyway, then they leaned me up against a tree, and they kept going, and finally first aid people came up and got me out of there.
Okay. When were you most afraid during the war?
Most afraid. Well, I guess the only time I wasn't afraid, but I thought I was going to die up there, and I was afraid that nobody would know where I was and never see me again.
So wasn't it when you were just like playing dead and all? Or
Yeah, in that time, yeah. And it's not that you're afraid to die, but you're afraid that, you'd like for somebody to know what happened to you.
But this was when you were playing dead, after you'd been shot. Where you been in the head or?
Yeah, in the head.
What was the saddest thing that happened to you during the war?
Saddest thing. Staying in too long.
Staying in the Army too long?
Well, I don't know if I could say anything was sad. It was just part of,
Like
your
none
duty.
of your friends died, real close friends.
Yeah, but that's part of war too.
So I'll just put your friends. What was the most rewarding thing that happened?
Yeah, I don't know.
You live to tell the tale.
I lived through it. That was it.
You live to have some darling grandchildren.
Right there. I guess that's right.
When did you start feeling that the war effort was going America's way?
Well, they told us in this Battle of the Bulge that if we stopped the Germans, that the war would be over in 3 months. And it was over in about 3.5 months after that.
So it was when they told you that if you guys
Yeah, they said,
stopped the Germans.
stop the Germans, and the war is going to be over in 3 months.
And it was.
First time it's been right.
That's amazing.
At the time, what did you think about the Japanese, the Germans, and then the Italians? So you can start with the Japanese if you like. What did you think of the Japanese?
Well, I
You loved them, of course, right?
yeah, really didn't know anything about them, but of course I didn't like them because of what happened at Pearl Harbor. But when you don't see that or experience it, you really can't appreciate it. You know, you think of it just something happened that you don't pay much attention to.
Okay, what do you think of the Germans?
Well,
You love them also too, right?
No, I really didn't think one way or another, really.
So you're just kind of confused about it, sort of?
Well, I wasn't old enough to know what was going on, and I just had to have faith in my government that, you know, that they had to be done. I was just doing my part. That's what it boils down to.
What did you think about the Italians?
Well, I didn't know much about them either, but they were awfully good craftsmen. I bought a cigarette case from an Italian prisoner that had taken parts of an old airplane, aluminum, and engraved it and made it a nice little case, and it was beautiful.
Okay,
Your memory of war.
have any of your opinions changed over the years? And if so, in what ways?
Well, of course, yeah, my opinion changed, but you mean in regard to war, or?
Probably that's what it means. Yeah, probably. It just says what have they changed over the years, and so. Yeah, I'd say war. Have any of your opinions changed about the war?
Yeah, well, since World War II, they had a bunch of other wars, like the North Korean War and the Vietnamese War, and where it's a political war, and they don't go in to win, and that's terrible. That's just a waste of human life for no gain. And the only war that they've done right since World War II has been that Gulf War. And this Bosnian War, we're going to be the same deal we're in Vietnam. It's going to be a mess.
Yeah. So.
And nobody's going to win.
So just your opinion changed about some of the ways that the wars were carried on.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
This doesn't have anything to do with this problem, but in the last probably 5 years or so, I've been going back to these Army reunions and close to, met a lot of people in the military service presently. And I've got an awful lot of respect for the military anymore. They're really high-class people, highly trained, and they're really decent people.
Do you remember the droppings of the atomic bomb?
Yes.
Were you in the hospital then?
No, I was after I was wounded, I was put on what they call limited service, and they didn't send me back to the infantry, but I joined the Air Force group, and as a clerk. That was pretty nice. But anyway, I was in the
Cushy
Air
office
Force.
job, huh?
I was in the Air Force in France, I believe, when I dropped the atomic bomb. And I was really glad to see that because they were getting us all ready to send us to the Pacific.
And the next question is, where were you when you heard about it? So you were working as a clerk, right?
In France. What'd you do as a clerk?
But
What'd you do as a clerk?
in charge of all the enlisted men's service records.
What was your reaction?
To the dropping of the bomb. Yeah, I thought it was a great.
And you didn't have to go to the Pacific, huh? Yeah, I think fighting one war is enough.
You know,
One
of course,
front.
it was a surprise. You know, nobody knew that such a thing existed.
At the time, did you feel the dropping of the bomb was necessary?
Yes, sir. If we hadn't dropped it, it'd been rough. Well, yeah, but not only it would have been rough on the Japanese too if we hadn't dropped it, because we would have lost probably almost 1 million more people more, and the Japanese would have lost about 2 million more than they did by bombing a couple cities. So overall, it was saved lives on both sides.
What were your feelings when you came home?
Was it?
What were your feelings when you came home?
I was really glad to be home.
When did you come home?
Came home in February 46.
How did the others receive you?
It was real good.
As a hero, also? Like, hero? For being in the war and all?
Kind of like a hero, or
Oh.
just...
No, they were just all glad we're home.
Did your brothers fight in the war?
No, neither one of them.
Neither Bob nor Dave?
What problems did returning soldiers face? Flashbacks, of course, right?
Well, yeah, I can only go for myself, but I never have had any flashbacks or anything, or to remember a few things. But I'm sure some of them that have really had some terrible experiences. And I guess like I was almost killed, but when it happens to you, you don't think too much about it. But if I had to come up and kill 6 or 8 people, you know, I was looking at it, that'd probably be a flashback.
Same here.
Did you have any trouble? You went back to school though when you came back, so you
Yeah.
didn't have any trouble getting a job or
Yeah, when
anything
I
like
came
that?
back, I just went back to finish my college. And of course, they had the GI Bill of Rights there that paid for the tuition and everything.
Of course, he got married in Christmas after he was back, so.
Okay, this is the last question. What one lesson do you think I should learn from remembering World War II?
Ooh.
I should have given you this sheet earlier unless you're looking on that.
Well, the whole country got behind the troops, and more or less the civilians participated. I guess civilians really participated in the war. And I guess what you can learn from it, if everybody will, you know, stand as a unit and fight to win, you can do it.
So if everybody will stand as one,
Yeah,
then they would win.
yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Good job. Over and
That's a
out.
wrap.
Yeah.
Ruth Vaughn.
Oh, and she's Ruth Denning.
Denning, D-E-N-N-I-N-G.
D-E-N-N-I. And then Vaughn.
No, just Tiedeman.
So she was Ruth Ellen Denning, and then when she got married, she became
Denning
Ruth
is
Denning
my
Tiedeman.
name.
Oh.
That's where I get my name from, Ellen.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Okay, so it's
Ruth
Ruth Ellen? Or no.
Yeah, Ruth
I
Ellen.
always use my maiden name as my middle name, but then Tiedeman.
So Ruth Ellen Diedeman is what's your name?
Right.
Tiedeman, I-N-G.
Oh, D-N-N.
I-N-G. I think that's English, I'm not sure.
So it's Ruth Ellen Diedeman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Erin, what is this?
This is World War II interview of people from the home front.
Okay. With Erin Murphy.
You know,
And Ruth Tiedeman.
Yeah.
what do you remember most about World War II on the home front?
I remember that there was a scarcity of different, like, silk hose and gasoline and I think it was meat too. It was hard to get meat. You had to have stamps to get certain things.
So you had to use rations?
Yes,
or-
yeah.
Did you have ration stamps, coupons?
Yeah, you just got so many a month or something. I can't remember, it's a month a week.
Was it enough to last for a month or a week?
Yeah, it was, but you didn't have the extra.
Do you remember the Pearl Harbor attack?
Yeah, I remember, but I don't remember where I was or.
Alright, so I guess you don't remember. How old were you?
When was Pearl Harbor?
41.
41.
She was born in 23.
Subtract. Let's see. 23 from 41.
She should have been about 19,
18.
18.
18.
What were you doing when the attack came? So you don't. You
I know, I can't remember where I was that day.
How did you feel about it?
Well, of course, everybody was upset about the war. I guess upset me.
If you lived on the West Coast, do you remember the internment of Japanese Americans?
So I live in the Midwest. So.
So you didn't know anything. Did you, well, yeah, I guess that pertains to if you lived on like the West Coast, so never mind about that.
Yeah, she's Kentucky.
Yeah. Where did you live during the war?
In Kentucky.
In a house, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Did you move?
During that time, no.
No. If you moved, were you in war work?
Yeah, I worked at Kentucky Ordnance Plant for a while. As a secretary.
You did stuff at the USO too, didn't you?
Well, just.
That wouldn't be war work, but
No.
be war related.
I think about once a month.
So you weren't in war work.
Well, yes,
Well-
ordnance.
Cause I have to.
An
ask you
ordnance.
where you worked.
Kentucky Ordnance Plant.
Yeah.
Ordnance
You-
plant is one that makes bullets and stuff, isn't it?
Ammunition.
Ammunition and war
Okay,
stuff.
what we made now. It's been so long.
Could you quit?
Yes, you could.
What do you remember about war rationing?
Well, it was very hard to get gasoline and had to be very careful about driving and gasoline is so close to stand out in my mind, but I remember my mother had trouble getting meat sometimes. She had certain stamps for beef and
How did they ration things? So stamps, etc.
yeah.
Wasn't it the ration
Yeah,
stamps?
stamps.
Where'd you get them?
I guess the government mail. I can't remember too much
Did you
about
have to
it.
go to the store and get them, or just mail them to you, or?
I think they came through the mail. You had to go someplace and pick them up. I remember I was lucky. I worked at the Gulf Oil for a little while, and I got extras because I worked there. So we had enough gasoline, but it was very hard to get them.
What things were rationed?
Gasoline.
Yeah. Feels like the same question. That's what you said, meat.
Meat. And we really had problems getting hose, I remember that. I mean, what,
Hose.
why there was.
Remember 3 things.
Yeah.
Gasoline, meat, and hose.
They weren't perfect at that age.
What do you remember about entertainment and fun, if any, during the war?
Well, I belonged to a sorority that went to the USO about one Saturday a month or something, and they had dances and things like that. It was fun because that's where I met my husband.
What do you remember about transportation? The gasoline was
Yeah,
nearby.
yeah, there was rationing. There was people carpooled a lot, and
Were there many buses and
yeah, but I
More
don't
than
think it
today?
was too much. People walked and carpooled.
Do you remember the dropping of the atomic bomb?
I can't remember too much about it.
So I'll start squirming.
Yeah. That's good.
So
I don't know why I put it, it was just kind of slipped my mind.
what was your reaction? Happy, excited, right?
Yeah.
don't remember?
Well, it was a horrible thing.
At the time, did you feel the dropping of the bomb was necessary?
No, I didn't think it was.
How did you learn about what was happening in the war overseas?
Well, I guess through the radio and the newspaper.
Did you get any letters from Pop?
Yeah, but they were always, later.
Did you do anything special to keep track of the war news, like
No.
keeping a scrapbook?
No.
How much time did you spend in school talking about the war?
That's a tough one.
Well, I guess.
These are not my questions.
I guess it'd be kind of like the one you talk about a little bit every day, but not, I don't think I ever dwelled on it.
Yeah, with things rationed so much, you probably didn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
it was.
talk about it, but you didn't.
You were aware of it anyway.
Yeah.
How did the war affect your family?
Well, we didn't lose anybody or have anybody that was hurt, so it didn't affect us as much as some other families, like ones who lost loved ones.
Did any members of your immediate family go overseas? No.
No.
Was your brother James alive, or
No.
he had died already?
What one thing, a phrase, picture, activity, most often comes to mind when you think of those years?
I guess I remember Walt getting hurt. Going back to the hospital with people.
But you didn't go see
No,
anything.
he was in England for long in France. I had to stay put.
That's it.
Ta-da!